It goes without saying that no one chooses to live through a pandemic. But here we are, and here we are likely to be for the foreseeable future. A new shadow of illness has cast over the human horizon and stands there as an unwelcome aide-memoire to our bounded existence. Not only are we mortal creatures, but we also exercise very finite and limited willpower. A great deal of our life experience takes the form of responding to circumstances beyond our control, not dictating the circumstances in which we carry out our days. Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? God asks a smarting and restive Job. Can you establish their rule on the earth? Job 38:33. These rhetorical questions mean to remind Job that his complaint lacks perspective, that however meritorious it might seem from a transactional standpoint, however much Job's good behavior appears to have been repaid by evil, humanity lacks the range of view required to make such a sweeping judgment. We are creatures of the world, not its creator. We are more subject to cosmic forces than cosmic forces are subject to us. The problem with a transactional account of cosmic justice is that it falsely assumes a direct correlation between human behavior and cosmic reward. The latter chapters of Job critically interrogate popular notions of karma. It's a hard lesson for Job to relearn, and for us. We want to believe that we exercise command over our circumstances, at least that we could do so if we made just the right effort, that it is at least theoretically possible for us to bend nature toward our self-derived sense of goodness. But Job and the pandemic remind us that our place in the world is a more modest one than that, and that the goodness of creation is more complex. It's not that we have no impact on the world. We have also relearned through the pandemic that humanity's collective conduct can influence the environment, as we have seen, for instance, levels of pollution reduce and patterns of animal behavior change, even after very brief periods of reduced human activity in a region. We are not merely set upon by natural forces, but are part of an integrated and interdependent whole. But that means that we cannot grasp the truth of our circumstances and rightly conceive of what is good without taking the whole into consideration. And this we can do only very partially. Viruses are also forms of life competing within the web of life for survival. Their tense relation to human existence is a more complicated matter than we have even begun to settle. Suffice it to say that Christian hope for redemption involves more than mere cancellation of life forms that compromise ours. Finding godly peace during a pandemic means working on the correct side of the ledger, so to speak, on the side of response rather than dictation, at least primarily on the side of response. Rather than imagining amity through total control of circumstances and elimination of every threat, and getting lost in cycles of sadness when this effort inevitably fails, we may discover peace through humility, by embracing our frailty, by accepting the gift of our mortality, even as we look for life beyond it. Christian hope for redemption seeks a covenantal harmony between the Creator and creation, and thus the renewal of every creaturely impulse that falls outside of the Creator's will. Obviously enough, this renewal involves the glad acknowledgement that our lives are gifts, not givens. Honest acceptance of our mortality as a way of placing ourselves once more in the hands of God until that mysterious day when death and crying and pain will be no more. It turns out that God's work of redemption begins on this side of the ledger, not minute dictation of every nanosecond, but caring response to the hardships and challenges that we face. Salvation begins by God's compassionate decision to share the struggles of our lives, not to exempt us from them. Peace is found, not as we act like God, trying to dictate the circumstances of these times, but meeting God, sharing in these times.